Hey everybody, I'm Lee with Olsen Equine, and we have hit our favorite horse, the last one of the day. So right now, we're just going to do a step-by-step video on shoeing her front feet. We're wrapping up for the day. There's our famous T-Rob, Jeb Hunt. Kelton Harris is running the camera. I don't know if he'll show himself, but we're going to take her in. We like to leave them in the shade whenever we can. This is kind of where we start and finish sometimes, or we shoe out here on nice days. But we always like to leave them in the shade and with water. So, come on in. A lot of people don't like shoeing in cross ties, but I've got to where I absolutely love it. We make sure that when we snap them up, they're hooked to the entire halter right here, as you can see, and make sure that it's a halter that fits and there's not much danger. And these cross ties are built to where the horses don't want to back up. We rarely have anything pull back in here. Everything's pretty comfortable, and I think it's because the horses can see each other. As you can see, we normally have this all full of horses and they would be looking right at each other. And first things first, secret to anybody's heart is usually food. She's a big fan. So, if you look at her feet real quick, you can tell that she's barefoot on the front and has been for a while. She's been getting a little sore on this right front periodically, nothing too serious. And then Kelton shod the hind feet this morning. He made some handmade sliders right here. This is just good practice. He ground the nail heads off, and just good practice for his Journeyman work. So, as we look at first off, let me show you the bottom of this foot. So there's nothing seriously wrong, and when you look at the bottom, you can tell there's not a lot of depth. As you lay something across there, you can tell that from lack of sole depth right there. So we need to put some shoes on her, and she doesn't have real great walls, as you can tell. So we got some x-rays taken just to be proactive. Saves a lot of guesswork. And as you can see, the left front, everything's pretty basic right here. Everything looks pretty nice bony column alignment, nothing out of the ordinary. And then you get to the right, and it looks like, as you can see, there's just some slight rotation, as you can see there. And of course, she's really short. As you can see that there's no sole depth, but this makes me think it's either just an upright foot, high-low, mild case of it, or there's been some slight rotation, as you can tell from this distance, that's a big distance. So bony column is tipped forward just a little too much. So ideally, like the right front, that's what we want, like this, and what we have is that, to where it's tipped down just a little farther. Not a deal breaker, nothing really to worry about, but with the excess out here, I kind of want to put some breakover on her to help her move better. So normally I'd be wanting to do like a St. Croix Advantage shoe. That's a nice shoe. It's got a little breakover. It's got some nice support in the heels, and it's really great for thin walls. Pretty much perfect for her. But this horse needs to get off the ground. So right now what I want to use is the Mustad Equilibrium shoe, roller shoe. It's pretty sweet. It's got breakover all the way around. As you can tell, it's got a bevel all the way around the whole shoe, just like that. And I want to use a leather pad this time. The only difference between a leather pad and other pads, well, between like a pour in, is that let's say you stick this shoe on a horse and you pour it in. You're only filling in the shoe's width, right? But where we want to get her off the ground so she has a little more protection, that's 2 pads, of course. But you know that it's going to raise her up another 1/4 of an inch or whatever that is. So the goal is protection, getting her off the ground, and breakover. So pad and shoe. Our nail of choice today is the Mustad MX50, and they're coated with Endura, so it makes them a lot stronger and they don't rust or break down. So smaller nail for the thinner walls and then extra strength. So without any more ado, let's get into it. First things first, always like to clean up the frog because I decide how much to trim off by where the real apex of the frog is. And the goal isn't to over trim the frog, that's the last thing I want to do. But I just want to kind of manicure it a little bit just so it's healthy. You can tell that she's overreached right there. Didn't do a very good job trimming this frog. Next, straighten the bars. So she needs protection, so I don't want to go after much of this, but I need to straighten the bars because the bars are much like a rafter in a building. A bent rafter is pretty much useless. So straight is strong. Definitely not going to use my nippers, just going to use my Excel Green Tang rasp here. Trim the heels back at the widest point of the frog. Trimming off a little, but not a lot. Every time you check balance, you do it with your opposite hand so you can see it, because if you do it with this hand, you can pull it out of the way without meaning to. Very important that every stroke overlaps each other, and it's a lot easier to keep the foot level. That looks pretty good. Always set it down gracefully like that because horses trust you with their foot, and when you put it down like that, it strengthens that trust that, hey, I can trust you with my foot, this guy's going to be nice to me. And that's one thing I learned from Chris Cox. And he swears that that's a big reason why horses are bad to shoe, is because they just lose faith in the farrier, and that's a great way to get it back. It's not a lot to trim off the top, but there is a little. The walls are a very tricky deal. It's pretty easy to over trim them and make things look nice, but they need that for strength in their foot. And if you do it first, you usually don't have to do much at the end. All right, so this one is the problem foot. So first step, we're going to trim the frog up, find the real apex of the frog, true apex. Oop. This is tough because the frog isn't in very good shape. I didn't do a very good job trimming it, but whenever it's got a flap like this, I always want to kind of take the lip off it, because if it's hanging up straight and sharp, it just bends over, where if it's got kind of an edge, kind of a softer edge to it, it'll actually push down and have normal, healthy frog function. Straighten the bars. Dang sure don't want to go in here because that's where she didn't have any foot anyway. So pretty much just trim the heel back. You'll see me check balance in the hoof quite often. It's just kind of like the old carpenter rule, you can only cut so much, right? So measure twice, cut once. It's easy to take it off, it's hard to put it back on there. I can see I'm just a little high right here. Didn't do a very good job doing my frog there, but it's kind of welded into the sole, so those are usually pretty hard. Now we'll check this again before I shoe her. Wall isn't in very good shape there. You can tell I didn't touch the sole, and look at that, 0 depth. Just like we saw in the x-ray. All I'm doing when I'm doing this is getting the distortion off, and I'm putting my finish on first. So there's not a lot to do here. You can see just a slight gap in there. Just like we saw in x-ray, there's just a little extra toe here. But not much. Usually try to get them to where they're pretty straight, but you can overdo that pretty easily too. I didn't get it all out, but I'm going to stop there. Now we're going to shape our shoes. These have a really great shape. The problem is this foot isn't that good, so it's a lot straighter on this side than it is on this side. We're going to have a little too much shoe, but we can just grind it off. So this is the bigger foot of the two, and you can see this one almost fits the way it is. So, great shaped shoes really make your life easier. So, you can see it's straighter here and nice and round here, so I just need to bring this in. Should fit up nicely. Have Jeb put a pad on it. We'll be good to go. These aluminum shoes, they can't stay in the forge very long. But if you do it right, it'll make your life a lot easier. A little warm over here by the fire. It gets pretty nice with, or get kind of spoiled being in the air conditioning in here. So it doesn't take very long. What I'm looking for is for it not to ting anymore. So you can look at this new shoe over here. You hear that? It's a lot more dead. And when you're building handmade shoes, you mark it with your wood hammer. That's why I don't tape the bottom of my hammer, so you can see a black mark. For me, with keg shoes, that's pushing it. I'd rather hit them a little cold than I would ruin a shoe. So I'm just straightening the medial side right now, or the right front. Bringing it in. I'm going to mark it so I know which foot is which. So every time I'm using this anvil, I'm trying to use the edges. This edge, that edge, and this edge. And then I'll put my hammer there, and it really lets me allow or visualize the foot, and that is the most time-saving thing there is. So I want my heel to line up with my toenail as close as I can. So you can tell this side's straighter, and this side comes out around just a little bit. I think I need to tighten up the toe a little bit, so I'm going to go a little bit like that, a little bit like that. And with her needing depth, if you just cup your shoe out, it'll prevent sole pressure, but it'll also give her just a little more depth. That should be pretty close. Bad thing is when you knock the sole pressure out, you open your shoe up, so now I got to close it back again. Yeah, let's go see what that looks like. I am going to set it back a little bit, so that's about where I want it there. Lateral side's pretty close, but medial side misses by quite a bit. And you can shape these cold. It just hot is a lot easier. So I just straightened it there, and I brought it in. One more time of that. Toe is a little bit too wide, and it misses a little bit here, so I'm going to hit it together. Hand me a rasp, Jeb. Here's a little Dusty Franklin trick for you. Works pretty well on concrete. Oh, baby. we're getting there. Use the marker, it really helps me make sure my shoe fit is spot on. All right, there we go. Now we'll take it to the grinder. So now you can easily see my marker, and that's where she's so straight, but my nails have to be nailed in the white line. So if I grind this off, I can afford to put my shoe right where my nails are supposed to be, because sometimes you can get a hot nail that way. So first thing, those are my checks. And that's from cold banging it out right there. Need to knock that off because that will cause sole pressure. And the marker is just a guideline. It doesn't mean you have to take it all off. It's not completely level, so step over to the mobile rig. There we go. Here you go, Jeb. Jeb's going to show you how we do our pads. Those rivets will never come out. He just fits it in there and it'll swell up in there. Now we'll grind it off smooth and those will never come off. You don't have to use a bandsaw, but it sure does make life easier. You don't have to drill the nail holes out, but it sure makes it easier nailing. A lot easier when you're working on a thin-walled horse to get the nails exactly where you need them. And now for the most important part. Very nice. Yeah. Jeb, would you shut the forge off, please? Good time to check balance again. Holding it with my opposite hand, looking straight down the leg. I truly believe that the most important part of the shoeing is the trim, so that's one thing that cannot be underdone. Check our fit one more time. The shoe's a little more desirable shape than the foot, as you can tell, because we want to train this foot where we want it to go. We want it to look like this when we're done, and make sure that we're nailing it in the correct place with our thin walls. That looks good. So put a little bit of hoof packing in there, make sure nothing gets inside our pad. Go. If you're working on very many thin-walled horses, I highly suggest using an Endura coated nail. Mustad makes them in several different kinds. If you like the city head, that's fine. This is a E head. This is a MX50. It just fits these shoes a little better, but just any nail will work in these shoes. Got to be real careful when you're shoeing a thin-walled horse. Make sure your nails are where they're supposed to be. I always laugh every time I tap on a shoe like that, because when I was young and dumb, I remember watching an older farrier shoe, and he would tap his shoe. And I would think to myself, you know how I know your shoe doesn't fit? Because mine went right on every time. Looking back, he was probably getting them in a great place, and I was just nailing them on. Five nails is plenty, especially on a double-aught horse, but this horse will pull shoes and it's got a pad, so I'm going to try to sneak another one in. But any sensitivity that I would feel right now, I would pull it out. Need just a little higher nails, especially on a poor quality walled horse. So we'll try to drive them up just a little higher. And the old cheater rule of using your ring finger where it's supposed to come out is what I rely on here. And all that does is make you tip the nail in the right spot. And sometimes you hit the same nail hole, but we tried. Tapping it keeps it in the foot. Hard blows makes it come out. Feel like I got my shoe placement where I want it. Just gonna bevel this toe a little bit right now. Then I'm gonna block my nails. You don't have to block them. I believe it matters the most of driving a good nail, but it just kind of pops it out and makes it easier to finish. Always set it down nice and easy. Look at her licking her lips. Yeah, she was just licking her lips. We kind of missed it, but I really believe we've had a lot of sore-footed horses that we've done that to, and we shoe them, get them off the ground, and they lick their lips. It's got to feel good. So that's awesome. So now I'll go shape this other shoe. Hopefully it goes a lot better than the other one. That was kind of a beating shaping that shoe. There we go. So I always like to keep moving it. You don't want to leave it in there very long, especially when this forge is already hot. Some guys brush it to know when it's ready. I just kind of move it around and then I tap it. That's probably pretty close, especially since I don't have to do too much to it. So you can almost tell when you set it down on the anvil. It's got a little more pop than the other one did, but not much. So straighten the medial, branch a little bit, bring it in. I think the lateral is pretty good. But I'll just... And you can absolutely do this cold. It's just, I like doing it hot. It's just a little easier. So put it in here. Always looking at a box. Straighter here for the medial. I feel like I should bring that in just a little bit more. So at the widest point, I start there. And just roll it around. I think that's going to be pretty close. So I'm just going to cool it. You know, the hot shoeing and cold shoeing thing, there's a lot of people that are all for hot shoeing and some people that are all for cold shoeing. I believe that when you sear the foot, it does make a perfect fit, and that's great. You can achieve that cold shoeing too. The reason why I like hot shoeing the best is because it's for me. It's easier on me. You can just tap the shoe instead of hitting it hard, and you can get a lot more things done because steel and aluminum, they just move easier when they're hot. So there we go. That's a little more what we're talking about right there. It's a pretty good fit for the first try. That made up for how long that other shoe took to shape. I might tap it shut just a little bit though. There we go. That should be great. I almost said perfect right there, but one of our sayings here at Olsen Equine is if you think anything's perfect, you're not looking hard enough. Slight check on the medial. See how it goes with the frog. So if we weren't putting a pad on, it would just let the foot clean out easier. And I do think horses pull a lot of shoes from excess shoe left on the inside right here. I'll go grind it. And Jeb, you want to start finishing that foot right there? You can watch Jeb. Hey! I was just trying to stay busy while Jeb was finishing that horse. There we go. When you're grinding these pads, if you just go straight in, it's pretty easy to finish it to where it just mirrors the shape of your shoe. Now for the most important part again. Bam! Nice finish, Jeb. I think I got something in my teeth. Pretty shiny. Always pick the foot up nice and easy. Oh, check balance. Looks good. Double check the fit. It's raining in Texas. Seems like it does that every week around here. Put some hoof packing in there. Make sure nothing sneaks under my pad. There we go. These nails drive so nice. Always double checking the fit. Oh, didn't like the way that one was headed. The tap's kind of encouraged to keep it in the foot. And one thing, I think Danvers Child is the one who told me about this, I think, on Facebook. But if you've got a sensitive horse and you just dip your nail in Vaseline, it'll want to go through the hoof wall a little better. So she's taking it pretty good, but that's just an example. There we go. See if she licks her lips again. Yeah, see? Yeah. That's awesome. Jeb is a finishing extraordinaire. Likes to make them look like glass. That's a gouge. You can use a rasp too, but that just makes like an ice cream scoop effect, just right underneath the nails, putting that clinch a good spot to sit. And you can see he just squeezes it right in the gouge. Right in the gouge, yep. we go. Not a lot of finish work to do. If anything, you just got to rasp the leather pad down. I think Jeb did a better job putting the pad on than I did. So he's just kind of polishing. He's not really rasping at all. And we're going to clean it up with the sanding block. And then if you guys don't know what this is tough stuff. They actually coated an egg in this, and you could drive a nail through it and it wouldn't break. This is pretty good stuff. Makes the walls a little stronger. Definitely a necessity for thin-walled horses. Very nice. That's just a sealant that just protects the hoof that we've opened up by rasping it. Very nice. See that? You can put it back up there, please. That's the idea with the gouge, is you can't even feel those nails right there. That's beautiful. So, Kelton wants to step around here and look at the side of this foot. So now, as you could tell, that foot was, the coffin bone was tipped down in here, and from a slight rotation, I guess, or it's just high-low syndrome. But either way, the program will be the same. We got her off the ground, now we got breakover. So as you look right here, you can see the breakover is clear back here. You can see the gap under here. So that's just going to allow her to move a lot easier. One time from the bottom. So that is the Mustad Equilibrium roller with the leather pad. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget the treats. You can overdo the treats, for sure. See, she doesn't even want it. But for you horse holders out there, just remember, stay off your phone, hold your horse. Your job is to distract the horse. You don't want to hurt the horse. You don't want to let it get loose. You just want it to stay framed up. And that's why I like cross ties, is because every time their head moves, you can see their whole body move. So with cross ties, they're a little more secure, and the horses really seem to like it too. So I hope you have a great day. I hope you enjoyed that, and God bless America.